Alright guys, so welcome to CCI Security version 6 bootcamp. My name is Rohan and I will be your trainer throughout this bootcamp. So talking about me, I have done a lot of trainings and bootcamps. Previously, I was doing it for routing switching as service provider, but for last 3 or 4 years, I've been working with NetMinion and also working as a network consultant and now into the security domain. So I have delivered this version of training for more than 10, 11 bootcamps as of now. And to give you an overview of the CCI security, that's the agenda of this class. And talking about the prerequisite, what is required, because there's a hesitation when you are attending some seminar, that too for a CCI. It's not an easy task. And I won't tell you that this seminar is going to bring everything in your head, in your knowledge in XYZ number of days, but it will give you a CCI level of knowledge, not only for exam perspective, but for your job, or let's say if you want to change your profile, or if you want to go into the networking or the security domain, it will tremendously help you. Because the prerequisite of this course, we are not following the Cisco's blueprint exactly for CCI, right? So if you have seen that Cisco has changed the way they were taking the exams earlier. Now there is a core exam and there's a concentration exam. The outline which is on your screen is a mixed match, is a combination of the core plus the concentration exam. I will tell you which are the topics which are not in the score, but it's there in the concentration as we go on with this course. So if you go through this boot camp and if you understand whatever the topics are written here, practically and theoretically, definitely it will bring a lot of change in your knowledge and in your experience. Talking about the prerequisite, before you attempt this boot camp, there's only one prerequisite, which is you need to be good. If I say from the certification view, CCNA would be the right term to use. The certification to be certified from Cisco is not required, but CCNA level of knowledge will help you a lot, because the concepts of routing we are going to use here. So routing concepts like, for example, if I want to configure OSPF or EIGRP, I'm assuming you have never heard about ASA. So when we are talking about the firewalls, I will start from the scratch. That what is firewall, how you implement, how you install, how you deploy our firewalls, right? But when it comes to how to configure EIGRP on your ASA, we will not be talking about the hello timers or the dead timers of EIGRP, right? And when it comes to how you implement or how you configure OSPF on ASA, or whether it's FTD for SIG, which is your next generation firewall, we will not be talking about OSPF LSAs types, but we will see how you configure and how you validate your OSPF or EIGRP on ASAs and FTD from scratch. So this much of routing knowledge is required. When it comes to the switching, so before going to this topic, this CCI security version 6 is very different from version 5 and version 4. Because now what Cisco has done, Cisco has introduced SDA everywhere in every exam. This SDA, here they are going to test you. When I say test, it means it's a part of your exam as well. They are going to test you with DNAC knowledge, Cisco's digital network architecture controller, which is an automation tool and an assurance tool. So when you are talking about SDA, it means the STP, the VTPs are now obsolete. It's no longer running anywhere. You must have done a lot of lab and a lot of theory on your STP's concept, MSTP, right? But it's all history now. You won't see it running anywhere, because when you talk about SDA, let me, yeah, software defined access. When you talk about this, right, basically means you're talking about fabric. So before talking about the CCI security only, let me give you a view or the approach of what Cisco is doing. Cisco is now moving towards your SDA. They have launched recent certification like DevNet recently. Also, you will see the domains which they were running like enterprise, your service provider, your data center, security, your collab, whatever certifications they are running, right? Nowadays, they have added the concentration exam in all their domains, which simply means in concentration, they have added one variation of your automation in every domain. Automation is now everywhere. Cisco is highly encouraging you to go for the automation, because automation is your going to be a future as well as it's your present. So when I say automation, you need no, I'm not talking about Python and machine learning. That runs in the backend, but there needs to be someone who manages the front end as well. So this SDA or this fabric basically means everything is now your L3. If you see the approach, you simply knows three architecture like LAN, your WAN, and third one is your data center, you call it storage networking. So what Cisco has done in the WAN, they acquired a company Viptela. They rebranded it as a SD-WAN, which is nothing but your software defined WAN. In DC, they already are having ACI, which they are going to develop a lot, and now they are recently going to integrate it with cloud and Amazon as well. In LAN, now they have introduced your DNAC, which is your SDA, software defined access. So you can get an idea. Means it's entirely on software defined everyone. It's application centric. So now everything is moving towards your software now. Everything is going to be application based. So we have this content. We are going to talk about SDA in this bootcamp and in depth. I'll talk more when we come to the point. Let me go back to the switching. So when I say switching, I don't expect you to be expert in STP and other concepts like VTP, but yeah, you need to know what is your inter-VLAN routing, right? What are trunks, transparent mode, basic stuff. And if you know frame relay or X.25 old technologies, if you have an idea about these, it's going to help you a lot. It's going to help me because it will save my this time here. So from the perspective of the prerequisite, CCNA would be more than enough to start with this bootcamp. Now I'll be starting this journey with the VPNs. When I say VPNs, generally a picture comes in our mind which simply says there's a site here, site 1, which wants to communicate with site 2, connected via some ISP, and these are geographically very far from each other. Let's say it's in USA or it's in Dubai or anywhere else in this world. So the first picture which comes in our mind is they are going to be a virtual tunnel. Over this virtual tunnel, I will simply encrypt my data. That's a general picture which comes in our mind, but that's a misconception. This is your VPN if you are securing it plus IP. What I was saying that if I am having two sites, right, and I want to communicate from R1 to R2, geographically apart, right, very far from each other, through some ISP. And for example, I'm sending some confidential information, like some confidential email, or I'm sending my password to R2. So anyone who's sitting in the middle can easily sniff the packet and read that information. So what I understand that my data is not secure in this way. So what you can do, you can use some method. I don't want to send a secure or I don't want to send something in clear text so anyone can read it. I want to send in an encrypted or some sort of with some sort of security so that only either R1 can understand or R2 can understand that. No one else in the middle can read what is going through this channel. So we can achieve it with the help of IPSec. Internet Protocol Security basically. So IPSec runs over your VPNs. So first you implement your VPN and then you run IPSec over it to secure it. It's not this IPSec VPN is not replacement of your any routing protocol. It runs on the top of your established or the underlay network, and it achieve it with the help of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Let me give you some real life example, not related to this security, right? For example, there is a guy, person 1, and there's a person 2. Person 1 needs to share his password information to, let's say, suppose to his college administrator to fill a college form. For example, he's my admin. For some reason, I trust this person too. He's a college network admin. I trust this guy. I will tell my password to him so that he can log in on my behalf and he can fill the form. Let's say there's some urgency last day of submitting the form and they are very far from each other. So I have an option. What I can do at this point, this person 1 will call this person 2, right? And he will tell the password, or he can send a message which will go via ISP, right? It's an open public network. Internet is your public and open network. So I am trusting person 2, but there are a lot of people sitting in this public domain who can sniff and who can read this information. So that's kind of a vulnerability. That's kind of a threat or a potential threat for me as a person 1. So instead, what I will do, I will take an envelope. I will put my message over one envelope and I will seal this envelope. So this sealed envelope I will send via some guy or courier guy through the person 2. Now only person 2 knows how to open this envelope. He will open it and he can see that information, that message or that password. So in this example, for the rest of the world, what they saw that one envelope is going. They don't know what is the message inside. For them, it's just an envelope. But for 1 and 2, it's a message inside an envelope. So how you relate it to the networking world? So when you want to send some information from one side to another side, you use encryption to secure it. Encryption is an algorithm which basically encrypts all the data, whatever you are sending out. So for example, R1 wants to send a word BAD from R1 to R2, obviously via some public network, and R2. What R1 will do, R1 will generate a key. He will say, I will call A as a 1, I will call B as 2, I will call C as 3. He will tell this same information to only and only R2. Hey, if you receive 2, which simply means 3, and if you receive 3, sorry, which simply means B, and if you receive 3, you simply means C. So we call it key. We will go in depth when we are talking about this. This is just an OVN and ID only, right? So these two guys needs to have this key. Now, if I want to send the word BAD, you tell me how we'll do it. What should I send here? I will simply send, okay, let me continue this. D is going to be 4 and E is going to be 5. Same here. Okay. Now I want to send BAD. I will be sending B, A, and D. Basically 214. So this BAD is now getting translated or encrypted by R1 into 214. He will send 214 here, and this guy R2 will receive it. He will decrypt this 214 into BAD again. So that's your easiest. What you call this form, you will call it as an encrypted form of your data. Any guy in the middle will see 214 is going through. He won't understand anything what is 214, because this is just an example. In real world, these are getting encrypted using a very high range algorithms. You have many options like advanced encryption system, 3 dash dash, there are a lot more, right? These algorithms will encrypt your data on their own. So in real world, it is going to be some special character combination which has no dependency on the size, right? Any guy or any person who is sniffing will see this information, and no one can guess what it is. The important thing here is you need to have this key to decrypt your data. So what I was saying, that what we just discussed is just the 5% of the this content what we were talking about. We will go in depth when it comes to the VPN, that what are the VPN fundamentals, why you need VPN, and what are the alternatives, because it's not required to configure a lot of configuration on your end devices or your gateway devices connected to ISP. There are alternatives available, which simply means you can either buy a dedicated lease line, which is the costliest, or you can opt for your MPLS VPNs, which is your L3 VPN or L2 VPN. The cheapest and the most effective way to go forward is your virtual private networks. These are very costly services offered by your ISPs. So when you are designing a network, you need to keep few aspects in your mind. It should be cost effective, right? It should be easy to troubleshoot and easy to implement. In all these perspective, your virtual VPNs wins. Reason being, when you are buying a lease line or you are buying some service from the service provider, you have no control over it. These are managed by your service provider. You don't have any control over it. Right? If you had heard about frame relays or X.25 prior to that, these are nothing but your VPNs. It runs on the concept of DLCs. So these are your VPNs. Again, these are your VPNs only, not VPN plus IPSec. Here, what we will cover, we'll talk about what the VPN fundamentals, your type of VPNs, basically, which includes your site to site and your remote access VPN, which will be based on your AnyConnect client or the clientless. You guys must be using any sort of VPN to connect to your office network when you are working from home. So we'll understand how you implement and how you configure it. Once done, we'll talk about your LAN to LAN, which simply means two sites wants to communicate with each other, but for some particular traffic for a particular subnet. Multiple ways of doing this is your site to site. Simply means one site is communicating with the second. Site to multi-site means your hub and spoke kind of architecture. We'll go in detail of GRE VPNs, your generic routing encapsulation. So there's a lot of difference when you talk about LAN to LAN or GRE. So GRE simply means you will be creating a static virtual tunnel interface. a real or a logical interface tunnel you will see on your routers, which will connect these two far apart devices like a directly connected device. And we all know when devices are directly connected with each other, you can run any sort of your IGP, interior gateway routing protocol. You can run RIP, you can run OSPF, EIGRP, even you can run your BGP, because now these will act as a directly connected. So if you see from a physical connectivity perspective, it will look like in this way. This is R1, this is your ISP, this is R2. But when you see it logically they are connected like this, R1 and R2 in your GRE. We will secure our GRE with IPSec. So these VPNs, what I was just talking about, are part of your basic VPN stuff. I'm not sure, but I assume that these are covered in your CCIE already. But we'll start and go in depth from the scratch. Afterwards, we will be taking a look at the advanced VPNs. So here your CCIE level actually comes into the picture. We will see how your MGRE works. It's multi-point GRE. These what we talk about LAN to LAN and GRE are your point to point. You need to have dedicated tunnels with every spoke, but you have an alternative. You don't need to have multiple tunnels. For example, if I have 3 spokes and 1 hub, right? So with this concept, if I want to establish connectivity with every spoke, what you need to have? You need to have a dedicated tunnel, whether it's virtual or how, with each of them. But MGRE comes to the rescue. What MGRE brings into the table, you can only have one tunnel interface, which will establish a connectivity with all 3. Ease of access, more scalable, more flexible, and less complex. We will secure it with your IPSec, which is your DMVPN. So we are going to do MGRE with your static NHRP and dynamic NHRPs. Till now it's simple VPN. We'll implement MGRE plus NHRP plus IPSec, which is your DMVPN. In NHRP, we'll go with both static and dynamic. Once done, we'll take a look of VRF based VPN, which is very important from the exam perspective, because if my sites are connected through MPLS, right, and this MPLS is my own MPLS, not managed by ISP, it's a small MPLS connected by the same organization, and for example, R1 and R2 are reachable with each other, but via VRF routing table, not via the global routing table. Then how you configure it? The concept and the fundamental remains the same. It's just how you implement and configure it that changes. We will cover that as well. We will talk about public private key infrastructure, and we'll cover the certificate based VPN. Certificate authority, you must have heard this name. So we will secure our tunnels, our IPSec, based on the certificates. So we will use our router as a CS server, and we'll talk about what are your public private keys and the complete PKI infrastructure, and then we'll do a lab as well for site-to-site VPN using the certificates. If you remember, I draw a key A equals to 1, B equals to 2, C equals to 3, right? If I want to change it or exchange this key with R2, that too I need to do securely. We'll do that with the help of certificates. You might not be able to understand it all, but just giving a review, you will understand when you cover all these things. It will make sense for you the rest of the topics, because all this comes under your advanced VPN. You may not be able to understand everything in one shot. This Flex VPN is kind of combination of what you see all about. You can run all the different types of VPN over the same infrastructure, but just by manipulating some config over it. That is known as your Flex VPN. will do the static virtual terminal interface as well as the dynamic terminal interface VPNs based on your flags. So all these VPNs, what you see here, runs over your routers. If you ask me honestly what is new, only this part is your true CCI security topic. Rest above are your CCNP routing switching. And now should be in CCNA, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, that's how it is. So these are the true advanced topics of the VPNs. But if you look at this, I'm going to start it from here. Now, talking about the remote access VPNs, these are the VPNs we will implement once we are done with our firewalls, because we will be implementing this on our ASAs and FTD. So this part is your, till this point, it's your VPN section. When we go ahead in this section, we will be taking a look of what is firewalls. So again, as I start with ASA firewall, which is your adaptive security appliance, I'm assuming that you don't know what is firewall, how it works. But just to give you an idea, a firewall, I'm talking about ASA, is nothing more than an L3 router. It basically L3 router plus by default, it blocks everything. Depends on the security levels, but just to get an idea, it has full-fledged routing capabilities. Even you can run all the above VPNs over what you just have gone through. You can implement it over firewall as well. So it has full-fledged routing capabilities. You can run your EIGRP, OSP, or whatever you want. But this is pretty old. Cisco is still testing this in exams, in interviews, and there are a lot of customers who are still running firewall. But for a reason, this firewall, there are many models. For example, 5508, 5516, 125516, 0612, a lot, right? Newer model as well, they are in the market. Most of the ASA's models are already end of life. Most of the ASA codes and models are end of your tech support as well. So Cisco is now moving away from the ASAs because they have a better option, which is your FTD. I'll talk about all this. So we'll start what are the ASA fundamentals, how the blocking and the filtering happens. What is the traffic flow, which is simply depends how you define your security levels. If you remember on your routers, how you configure any interface fast Ethernet 0 by 0, for example, IP, you put IP and mask and you do a no shut, right? That's how you configure. In firewalls, it's two-step extra. You need to go to the interface level. You need to define the IP, no shut, plus you need to give a name to every interface. For example, I'm giving a name inside. And then you need to define security level. Security level is numerical value from 0 to 100. You need to define these two extra things under every interface. So when I say security level, basically it is your numerical value, but it denominates or it defines your trust level, how much you trust that interface. For example, generally we put our ASAs as a gateway, which is connected to ISP, so that if there's any traffic coming from the internet, which you don't want to have inside your organization, you can filter it then and there only. So let's say these are my hosts connected to the routers, and then router is connected to ASA and ASA is connected to your ISP. So generally we trust this interface a lot, because whatever is coming from this interface or going within this interface is my LAN network. I trust my LAN network. So generally we give this security level as 100. We don't trust the interface which is connected to the public domain or to the ISP. We generally give it a
security level of 0. So the traffic flow simply depends how you define these security levels, which also depends on your name. So if you are giving a name to interface inside, whether it's capital or small, by default, the security level of this inside is 100. Anything apart from this inside is 0. It comes to the picture because in ASA, the fundamental says traffic from higher security level to a lower security level is allowed. But traffic from a lower to higher is blocked by default. Simply means my users can go out because they are going from 100 to 0, but anyone from outside cannot access my users. This is blocked because they are coming from 0 to 100. Okay, so that's just an idea of what is your ASA. We'll talk about how you manage ASAs, what are the interface configuration, how you configure routing on your ASA. We'll talk a lot about network address translation. We will basically test and implement all the options, whatever you have heard so far. This is again the basic stuff, the known pretty old stuff, nothing new. Manual net is something which is new, which simply means you can translate your source and destination with a single command. That's your manual net, or you can also know it as a policy net, which simply means kind of conditional net. I want to net this user if it is going to Facebook. I don't want to net him if he's going to some other server. So that you can achieve with the manual net. Redundant interface and your port channel brings you the interface level redundancy. We will configure and test it. Security concepts, contexts are kind of your virtual firewalls. If you know VRFs, you can kind of simply relate to VRFs. Then we'll go to the high availability, which is your active or active standby failovers. We don't want to depend it on a single point of failure, so we generally have one active and one standby. If this firewall goes down, the standby will take over. For better feasibility of a kind of more throughput, we can also have active firewalls. So both can transfer the traffic at the same time. You can cluster these as well. There are two modes, which is your span mode and individual interface mode. And you can also run your site-to-site VPNs over your ASAs. So if you look at this closely, we are covering the basics here, plus the basics of NAT, the basic fundamentals. This comes to your interface redundancy. This is advanced concept, your virtual firewalls. You are covering your high availability along with the clustering and the VPNs. So everything, whatever you see, is covered from top to bottom. Still, if you are wondering that why ASA is about to end, it's most of the models are already end of life, because it has a limitation. ASA was failing to compete with other popular firewalls known as Palo Alto or Checkpoint. So what Cisco did in 2013, Cisco acquired a company. Company was SourceFire. Cisco acquired this SourceFire, and they had a very popular product, which was your IPS, intrusion prevention system. Cisco acquired this company and rebranded this product as Firepower, which is your IPS. So your firewall provides you a layer 3 or layer 4 level of security or filtering, and it can also go to the layer 7. There's a kind of concept known as DPI, deep packet inspection on your firewalls, but it goes up to your header level. This Firepower, what it will do, it will basically prevent your network from the malicious malicious data. Like if you can relate to the antivirus, spams and other things. So it prevents your data from the intrusions from the malicious attacks and all those things. So Cisco rebranded it as a Firepower, and now it's selling it as a Firepower. If you have heard about NG-IPS, this is nothing but your Cisco's Firepower. So how it was working earlier? For example, there's a company, they have built ASA Inline. So for example, traffic is coming from this direction, goes to the ASA. ASA will first do L3 and L level of filtering, then he will send the traffic towards IPS. IPS will basically scan the traffic, what you have received. If it is clean, it will pass it on. If it is not, it will directly drop it. If the traffic is found out to be clean and there is no malicious files or no intrusions, it will go back to the users. The traffic will go on. Two different devices, two different management, two different maintenance, right? Probably two different engineers to operate and to implement. What Cisco did, Cisco went one step ahead, and they basically combined these two capabilities in a single box, known as your Firepower Threat Defense. It brings a lot of capabilities now, because you are doing your firewalling plus your IPS thing on a single box. There are different ways which it is available in. The first thing, you can still use your ASA 55 series plus install some SSD drives, and you can install FTD OS on it, and you can use it as a FTD. Plus it also needs to have that IPS module. Let me go back and put in a different way. Just forget, let me try to explain a different way. So earlier the option was, what Cisco did, they bought one device, ASA 55X series. Here they added one more module, one more physical module, which is your IPS module here. So what happens when a packet comes in, it goes to the ASA engine, it gets filtered there. ASA will send it to IPS, the same module. IPS will scan it, and he will send it back to the ASA engine, and packet will go out. This happens within a box. What Cisco did, Cisco now converts, there's a combined image, ASA image plus the IPS image is known as your FTD OS, a separate operating system which you can install over your ASA 55X series, which is having SSD drives. Or you can buy a physical appliance as well, or you can go ahead with a virtual appliance. VM is also available. Physical, the series are 43 or series, 9300 series appliance. Nowadays 2K series is also there. You can buy the physical device which will have a pre-built or pre-installed FTD OS image over it, or you can go ahead with a VM option as well. So just to give you an idea what capability it provides. So FTD is still doing all the firewalling which ASA was doing. So this is your FTD. A lot of FTD topics we are going to cover starting from the scratch. Plus it also gives you a lot of capabilities apart from this L3, L4 policies which were already there. It gives you a capability to filter using URLs. There are pre-built data. Cisco FMC is directly connected to Cisco Talos, from where it gets continuous feeds. You can simply opt for any other service. You need to have a license though. You can easily opt. For example, I want to filter those websites which are gambling websites or the phishing websites or the torrents. I want to block. FTD has a pre-built categorization already, which is getting continuously updated with the live feeds from the Cisco Talos. So they have already categorized whatever the known URLs so far, they are already categorized in a gambling website. For example, if I want to block news and media websites, right? I can simply do a tick mark in front of your news and media, and all those news and media websites will be blocked. For example, if I want to test with bbc.com, it will be blocked for me now. I have done a categorization which is blocked. Now, if you ask what if the URLs is not categorized, so all the known URLs till yesterday's date are already categorized. They are continuously categorizing it. But if some website, let's suppose it came today only, if it is not categorized, then you can define a policy for that what you want to do with your uncategorized URLs. We will be configuring all those. Security intelligence, Cisco has a pre-built communication with the other cloud channels from where it gets what are the harmful IPs or the IPs which they have seen attacks in the recent days, or the URLs which are harmful. They have already categorized them as a globally blacklisted. So those globally blacklisted, you don't need to apply or configure any policy. Those are already blacklisted by Cisco. So that security intelligence gives you a capability to stay updated. You don't need to implement any other policy. We'll see in depth how you customize it and how you use the security intelligence and why it is useful. It also gives you application visibility control as well. So if I want to enable Facebook in my organization, but I want to block Facebook chat or Facebook like option or Facebook games, that I can do, because FTD goes in depth up to the layer 7 inside the packet. It reads the complete packet, what it is going out and coming in. Thus, it gives you the application visibility in and out. It also gives you file and malware policy. For example, I want to block .exe file in my organization, or if I want to configure a special policies for .pdf files in my organization, that you can do with the help of these policies. AMP, advanced malware protection, you can configure policies for them as well. Once you are done with these policies, you can also configure IPS policies. And along with that, you also have an option of active standby failover. As I said, Cisco is now started to move towards FTD, but they are still in developing stage. So what currently is happening, they don't have full-fledged ASAs, but most of the features are there. If you say active, or the security context, it is currently not there on FTD. As soon as they completely migrate from ASA to FTD, you will not see ASA any longer. That's your FTD, guys. You also have web security appliance. As name signifies himself that, for example, you want to go to the internet, right? It's a separate physical appliance though. It is a physical and the VM is also available. So if my traffic is going towards internet, I may or may not have this WSA inline. I can also configure WCCP to redirect it. But whatever traffic is going to web, I can simply implement the policies, which gives you a lot more capabilities what FTD was doing. So you can again do a category based filtering. Plus there are a lot more advantages. You can basically customize the pre-deployed profiles and a lot more capabilities to filter the traffic which is going towards your web. Similarly, they have an email security appliance as well. If you want to control what our emails are allowed to go in and to go out, this WSA works only in one direction if traffic is going out. ESA works in bidirectional. What all emails are allowed to go out and to come in. You can create a policies for incoming and outgoing traffic, and a lot more policies that what attachments are allowed to add. So this ESI is going to work in hand with your DNS server and basically a proxy in your network to control the email flows bidirectionally. Once we are done with this, the next big topic is going to be ICE. ICE will go from the basics of ICE, assuming we don't know anything about ICE. We'll start with the fundamentals of ICE. what is ICE and how it works. ICE gives you a lot of capabilities apart from what is there in our content. So it can act as a AAA server and as a network access control device. We will be taking a look at the fundamentals, the basic of it, how you build it, build ICE, and what are personas, MNT, PAN, PSN, if you have heard about them, the certificate which it uses, what are the PS grid roles, what are the admin roles. We will be talking about all this. Once done, we'll be taking a look at what is your TACX and radius. As I mentioned, this is again from the zero, the difference and where you use your radius and where you use your TACX. Once we are done with this basic part, we will check out for your .1x authentication, which is very, very important. .1x is advanced a lot. You can't compare it with switch port security, but it's way far advanced for your switch port securities. So how you secure your ports, whether it's a switch port or your wireless clients as well. So we will be taking a look at how to implement .1x, how you create profiles and policies on your ICE, how you integrate your ICE with Active Directory, and finally how you build your authentication policies if users are local or on your LDAP server or some other directory. Basic troubleshooting of ICE we will also cover it. Well, how you check the logs, which services are responsible, how you collect the bundle. Same thing we'll do for the map. So there's a difference between .1x and map. So map we'll do for the devices which doesn't have the .1x capability, like your printers. You cannot put username and password there. Like your old IP phones. Nowadays, IP phones have the capability of .1x, and I'm talking about the old IP phones, which works as your silent host. You will configure map because this authentication is your MAC address authentication bypass. Basically, authenticating a device based on the MAC address, not on the username and password. TrustSec basically is an advanced way how you implement your policies. If you know how you configure your ACLs is based on IPs only, that this IP is not allowed to talk with this IP. But what if the IP of the users gets changed? You need to modify this ACL. What if the geographic location of a particular server is changed for which you have configured the policy? For example, I have a DNS server. For some reason, I am relocating this DNS from one location to another. And on the another side, it is going to have a different IP. So now I don't want to build my access control list based on IPs. Rather, I will do it based on the tags known as your security group tags. What it will do, you will simply say the users who belongs to group A cannot communicate to group CC. Let's say CC is my server group. So now you can assign a tag to each and every user and each and every device. You don't need to modify any access list. For example, in your organization, a new guy joins in, then you need not to worry about the subnet. He can get the IP from any subnet, anything, any location, any DHCP server. Ultimately, he will get this tag. And once he has this tag, all the policies which are applicable for this tag A will be applicable for that user. So that you do with the help of TrustSec. Later, we'll look at device administration, how you manage your device with the help of ICE. If you want to telnet or SSH, or if you want to do command-based authorization that this user can go up to privilege 1, or this guy can go up to privilege 15, how you configure it on ICE and how you troubleshoot it. Once done with this part, the new topic, the latest one, which I was talking about earlier, is your SDA, the software defined access. In SDA, we will be talking a lot because it is there in the blueprint. In the exams, it is there. If you go to the exam outline, the lab syllabus, it is there in the CCIE. It is very important. It is now trending. As far as I know, it is one of the most top selling product of Cisco, which worth more than $1,500. It's sorry, it's more than even in 1 crore in INR. So it's one of the top selling product and one of the trending. If you have gone through the CCI blueprints, they have added this product in other domains as well. Whether you see wireless or enterprise, it's everywhere now and it's trending one. So we'll see what is the difference between your legacy network and your SDN network, how a controller works, what are the fundamentals of controller, and what are the advantages and disadvantages. For sure, there are going to be some disadvantages as well. We'll see what is this DNAC is built on. It is running Linux and underlay Kubernetes Docker. An overview will have, right? We will not go into the DevOps syllabus covering Docker and Kubernetes. We won't do that, but we'll give a good level of idea what it is and what is a fabric. Because fabric, when I'm saying, I'm talking about border and edge. So these are going to be my border devices and these are your edge. If you know ACI, this is similar to your spine and leaf architecture. So whatever devices you are seeing in the blue color is managed by your DNAC, your controller. This is my fusion, or you can call it as a core device, which is now then simply connected to your internet or your data center. And your DNAC sits here. It's a controller, it sits here. So this DNAC has a lot of capability to configure these devices remotely, right? If you remember, if you want to upgrade this device, you need to plug a USB, make a bootable image, and then upgrade it. But from the DNAC, you can do it remotely. Not only that, you can schedule your upgrade. For example, I want to upgrade this switch at 2 a.m. It will do it automatically. You don't even need to download the ISO image. DNAC will automatically download it before you remember it, and it will give you an alarm that your particular this 9300 switch is not on the recommended release, what is from the Cisco. So please go ahead and upgrade it, or you can schedule your upgrade, or you can run a pre-checks, which basically simply checks the flash, the RAM, the HTTP connectivity between the DNAC and your switch. A lot of capabilities known as your SWIM. It also enables or register licenses on the devices. You can LAN automate, basically means you can simply bring out a brand new box from the box, and you can simply connect the power cables and these cables. Do nothing. Don't go to the console, because DNAC will bring that device live in environment in less than 2 minutes with the full-fledged config. Good thing you don't need to configure templates as well on DNAC. It will do it by its own. You will see how you manage inventory and how you provision devices for inventory and fabric. How you define these roles. We'll have an overview of this, and how you basically integrate your DNAC with ICE. This is important part. We'll have a lab practical for this. How you create your SDTs and the policies. How you discover more devices. For example, I want to add 2 more switches in the fabric. How you discover, or how DNAC discover these switches. We'll see a practical for as well. We'll go and configure that design tab of the DNAC, which is completely GUI. How you configure AAA server, how you define SNMP, syslog server, IP pools, credentials, and banner. So this is will cover. And just to summarize, whatever you have seen in this PDF is more than what is there in the CCI security blueprint. Basically, it is combination of your score plus your concentration exam. Just to give an idea, in your score, there is no ASA high availability, but we have added that. There is not much FTD high availability, and FTD advanced policies are not there. So this kind of missing, this much of SDA is not there. Even it is not there in concentration. We have added, and the basic VPNs, the old VPNs, basically the CCNA stuff, which are not there. So we have added them. Even the ICE has very limited knowledge in score, but we are covering all these in our blueprint. So it's definitely more. Apart from this, whatever you are seeing now, so let's say this part, this is an overview, means we are going to debrief with the help of the GUI navigation, but we are not going to implement it, all this. Apart from this, about is going to be practical done by me. So whatever topics I've gone through or I walk you through, I'm going to demonstrate all of them and to do practically in the class. And when I'm doing this, I'll be explaining you each and every command and the meaning with the concept of it. And if I say from the lab perspective, this lab you can practice for your sake, you can practice around 85% of this lab, 80 to 85 on your personal server or on your laptop if it has a good RAM and bandwidth. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do a mix match. I have my own physical lab and I have my own VM lab. So there are a few things which cannot be done over the VMs like ASA clustering. ASA clustering cannot be done here. So I will demonstrate you on the physical rack of mine. So for you, everything what we have discussed will be covered practically as well as theoretical. So it's going to be a complete practical and theory for all the topics.
Yeah, Sandeep here. Uh, can you just go to the SDA topic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said that the DNAC overview would be there, and there would not be any practical. So how that provisioning and fabric provisioning and inventory and LAN automation and all these things?
So when I said overview,
Uh-huh.
it simply means this part is overview.
Oh, okay.
I will walk you through. If I get a chance, I'll try to implement because the reason behind that, this needs a complete infrastructure. Even we are running a separate bootcamp for SDA.
Mm-hmm.
It's an entirely separate bootcamp. So we are introducing here so that you can have a good idea of it. Though it's a separate course, it's a separate huge pillar. Because when I'm saying I'll do a LAN automation in the lab, basically means I'm going to break my fabric and going to rebuild it, which is not practically possible and feasible most of the times. So this is why I'll walk you through how you do the LAN automation and what are the precautions you need to take care of and the prerequisites, other things. Apart from these things, this is practical because you can do it 10 times in a day. But to do a LAN automation, you need to practically remove or physically remove that switch, then reset the complete switch and then re-add it. So you need to have one guy at the location who will do all this stuff for you. Once the LAN automation is done, then only you can go ahead with the other topics. And you also understand we cannot upgrade switches daily, right? So that's where the swim limitation comes into the picture. Integration with the CSM is already done, but sometimes it is a paid connection, so you may or may not have this connection. This is why the limitation is.
Yes, I can understand that, but I wanted to since you said that it would be an overview, can we go theoretically in depth?
Yeah, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. Theoretically, we'll do here. This is theory. If you want, I can show you the config as well.
Yes, that is needed because this automation is very much important to have an into CCIE, right?
I know this is. I completely agree with you. This is really important. It's going to be the future in next few years.
Yeah.
In India, most of the customers are already on it.
Yeah, I'm already working on it.
All right.
I don't have that much access on there, but my customer is having this setup, and
Okay.
maybe in few days we are going to propose them the solution on this. Right.
All right. That's good because I have a personal touch with them. Just to go off the records, my wife is in Cisco Tech for DNA team only.
Okay.
So I know how important this is and the pain the customers are actually having with this product and what they are liking about this. So I know. So definitely we will cover this with theory as well as the config which is required. If you want, I can share some documents with you which have in-depth detail if you want to go for the troubleshoot as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But luckily I do have DNAC, right? I do have DNAC which is physical because DNAC there is no VM.
Yes.
The logic behind, because Cisco wants to sell their UCS C series server, so they are directly inbuilt this DNAC over this use CA series server. So we
Yes.
do have a DNAC. We will do all these things practically, and we'll go in depth with this. I can show you simply as well how you do it. And ultimately, it's a controller. So good thing about a controller, you don't need to type too much. It's just a few clicks. For line automation, you don't need more than 5 clicks. But how to do it, sequence, prerequisites, I'll tell you.
Okay. That's fine. And what about the Cisco eyes? It would be in depth, right?
It's practical. It's
Uh,
all practical. There's nothing means there's nothing like theory only. It's
mhm.
all theory plus lab.
uh, so we'll do that MAC-based authentication, all these things, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
That's great. I have not added the wireless part here, though we will try to finish it. It again depends on the inventory availability, but we'll try to get hold of WLCs as well to test the wireless client authentication, though it is same. If we didn't get a chance, I'll walk you through with the configuration required on the WLC to do that. But to have a wireless client, again, this brings some limitation on the table. That is why it is not there, but we will try to get hold of that as well.
At least we can do that WSE communication, controller communication. If we don't
Yeah,
have on that
that we
access
can do.
point.
Yes, 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 yes.
It covers the guest SSID as well, right?
Guest is not there. Even guest is not tested in the exam. If you want, I can give an overview. See, you need to understand the psychology behind Cisco is now they are not testing you only for your CCI written, what they were doing last time. You are having a score exam plus a different concentration exam. In the concentration exam, they have a separate exam for VPNs, separate for your next generation firewall, which is your uh,
FTD.
FTD,
Mm.
and separate for ICE, separate for your ESA, separate for WSA, and separate for your automation. So there are few things which they are going to test here because in depth is covered here.
Oh yeah, I wanted to know that what about WSA and ESA? So
It is there.
will have the practical
Right.
there, right?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Only thing which I have a limitation, I already mentioned it here, this part. Apart from this, you don't need to worry about other things. It is going to be there.
But without guest, I don't think so. How we will get the guest one? Is it something you can tell? You can tell us if we need, because the rest SSIDs is something easy to integrate, right? With ICE. Guest is something little difficult.
I got your point. So even if you talk about a guest, okay, it's not only guest, we are going in depth. When you opt for ICE concentration, you don't only get guest, you get BYOD, right? We are doing that, but we are doing it in a separate form. So whether it's wired, wireless, or TrustSec, basically in depth, PXLate, we are integrating it with DNAC and FTD. We have a separate course. Probably you can talk later. Probably I will sync with Zoya, and we can work on this if you want to add some more in it. But from Cisco's perspective, it is there, but they have a separate exam for it. Even I have just finished this bootcamp, this FTD bootcamp.
Is this Kaza from our Rampi?
Sorry, I didn't get this.
No. The person who was talking with Rampi name. Is this
Okay.
Kaza?
No.
Okay, would you please introduce about yourself? The one who joined with the Rampi, would you please introduce about yourself?
I think he left.
Okay,
He left. Why?
from some another institute probably. Okay, so
How
people
can they?
people used to do that. People
Actually,
used to do
this
that.
is very ridiculous.
That is the reason.
That's part of life. We have usual. All right.
Right.
So guest is not a big task. We can. I will definitely walk you through with the config, probably with the help of slides on this. So now, if I talk about the duration, Duration, if I assume that you have some familiarization with the basics of it, then it is going to be 60 hours. Doesn't matter how you do it, weekend, weekdays, or fast track. It's 60 hours in any ways. If you want to go slow and if you want to start everything from zero and have no idea, it goes up to 70 to 80 hours. That's up to you. What I am working with, that means I'm being pretty flexible. We can do it on weekdays, weekends, or in a fast track, which is a boot camp. In a bootcamp module, it is going to be 15 days, kind of 4 hours per day. But don't expect me to go from scratch or from very zero to spend more time on theory in this. So it is generally for those who are already working in this domain and just want to have a brush up or before attempting the exam. So bootcamp is, if you are a new buyer or new joinee, either you can opt for these two. Probably you can talk later on with the Zoya and team on this. Any question with respect to the technical topics and how we are going to do?
No, actually, I think I'm clear about this. With the comfortable for this, all the slots like weekend, weekdays, or boot camp. No issue on that.
And one more benefit for you guys who understand Hindi, if we would be having only Hindi people in the batch, then we can start this batch in the Hindi as well. But it depends purely upon you, as Rohan is, good with everything. So if you wanted to go with English is better. If someone is, wanted to have in Hindi only, and we have only Hindi speaking people, we can go with the Hindi as well. As in how you guys would be comfortable, we can go in that. So, okay, probably I will say, Rohan, thank you. Thanks for your time.